In a quiet corner of a bustling town, nestled between a fragrant bakery and a bookshop filled with dusty old tomes, there stood a peculiar little shop. The golden letters painted above the door read, "Tick-tock wonders, fine timepieces crafted by hand." Inside, the air was rich with the scent of wood polish and faintly ticking clocks, each one whispering a soft rhythm that made the whole shop feel alive. This shop belonged to Master Horatio Gearwick, the most skilled clockmaker in all the land. People travelled from distant towns and villages to commission him for his creations, which were said to be more than just timekeepers. His clocks were masterpieces, each one brimming with intricate designs, tiny mechanisms, and an inexplicable sense of magic. But Master Gearwick was no longer young, and in recent years, much of the shop's work had been entrusted to his young apprentice, Ellie. Ellie was no ordinary apprentice. With her hair always slightly messy, her hands smudged with grease, and a tool belt slung over her shoulder, she was as lively and curious as the ticking clocks surrounding her. Master Gearwick often chuckled to himself as he watched her work, her tongue poking out slightly in concentration as she pieced together impossibly small cogs and springs. "Patience, Ellie," he would say, his voice warm but firm. "A clock is only as steady as the hand that crafts it." "Yes, Master Gearwick," Ellie would reply, though she often found patience a tricky thing to master. Her hands were skilled, her mind quick, but she couldn't help rushing sometimes, eager to see her ideas come to life. It was this boundless curiosity that led her to notice something unusual in the workshop one evening. It had been a long day. The shop was closed, and Master Gearwick had retired upstairs to his quarters, leaving Ellie alone to finish cleaning up. The faint glow of a lantern lit the workbench, casting dancing shadows on the walls as the clocks continued their steady tick-tick-tick. Ellie sighed, stretching her arms after hours of bending over tiny mechanisms. As she reached for a dusty old box tucked behind a stack of unused tools, something caught her eye. The box wasn't like the others. It was small, made of dark wood, with delicate golden inlays that shimmered faintly under the lantern's glow. A peculiar keyhole was set in the centre, and next to it lay a tiny silver key. Almost as if it had been waiting for someone to find it, her heart fluttered with excitement. "What's this?" she murmured, gently brushing away the layer of dust covering the box. She picked up the key and hesitated for a moment, remembering Master Gearwick's advice to always be cautious with the shop's artifacts. But her curiosity was far too strong. With a small click, the key turned and the box popped open. Inside was something extraordinary, a clockwork bird. Its feathers were crafted from tiny interlocking golden plates, and its eyes were sparkling blue gemstones that seemed almost alive. Ellie's breath caught as she lifted it carefully from the box. It was unlike anything she'd ever seen. There were tiny gears embedded in its chest and a winding mechanism on its back. "Wow," she whispered, holding it up to the light. The bird's craftsmanship was flawless, as though it had been made by hands even more skilled than Master Gearwick's. Unable to resist, Ellie wound the key into the mechanism. The bird gave a faint whir, and its eyes blinked. Startled, she nearly dropped it, but the bird flapped its wings, emitting a soft, melodic chirp that echoed through the quiet shop. Ellie grinned, her heart racing. "You're alive!" she exclaimed. But as the bird fluttered out of her hands and began circling the workshop, she realized something strange was happening. The clocks on the walls started spinning wildly. The ticking grew louder, faster, until it was almost deafening. Ellie tried to catch the bird, but it darted through the air, finally landing on a large, ornate clock at the back of the shop. Suddenly, everything stopped. The clocks fell silent, their hands frozen in place. Even the faint rustle of the night wind outside seemed to vanish. Ellie stood there, the quiet pressing around her like a heavy blanket. The bird turned its head to look at her, its sapphire eyes glinting with a mysterious light. "What have I done?" she whispered, her voice trembling. Before she could think of what to do next, the bird gave another soft chirp and flapped its wings. A shimmering portal of light opened behind the clock, casting a golden glow across the room. Ellie gasped as the bird flew through the portal, vanishing into the light. For a moment she hesitated. She glanced around the workshop, now eerily silent, and thought of Master Gearwick's words. "A clock is only as steady as the hand that crafts it." Taking a deep breath, she stepped forward and followed the bird into the portal, not knowing what awaited her on the other side. Ellie stepped through the portal, her heart thudding wildly. The golden light enveloped her, and for a moment she felt as though she were floating, weightless and free. Then, with a rush of cool air, she landed gently on solid ground. Blinking, she looked around, and what she saw stole the breath from her lungs. She was no longer in the cosy workshop. Instead, she stood in an open square surrounded by towering buildings made entirely of gears, cogs, and clock faces. They shimmered in the soft glow of an enormous golden sun that hovered low in the sky, ticking faintly like a giant pendulum. The air was filled with the faint hum of machinery, a sound that felt both alive and strangely comforting. "Where am I?" Ellie whispered, turning slowly in place. The clockwork bird chirped loudly from a nearby perch, drawing her attention. It flapped its golden wings, clearly beckoning her to follow. Ellie hesitated for a moment, then nodded to herself. "All right, little bird, lead the way." The bird darted down a cobblestone street, and Ellie hurried after it, her boots echoing against the polished stones. The city seemed deserted. She passed elaborate fountains shaped like hourglasses, their water frozen mid-flow. Great mechanical trees stood still, their metal leaves catching the faint light. It was eerie, yet oddly beautiful. As she followed the bird, Ellie noticed something troubling. Everything here was completely still. The hands on the clocks didn't move, the pendulums hung motionless, and even the faint ticking of the sun seemed to lag, as though time itself were struggling to keep going. The bird led her to a grand building at the city's centre. Its entrance was adorned with a massive clock face, its hands frozen at midnight. Intricate carvings of stars and constellations framed the door, and above it was an inscription that read, "The Great Clock of Eternity." Ellie's breath caught. She had heard stories of the Great Clock from Master Gearwick, tales passed down from generation to generation of clockmakers. It was said to be the heart of time itself, the mechanism that kept the entire world in motion. But those were just legends, weren't they? The bird landed on the steps of the building and chirped urgently, breaking her train of thought. Taking a deep breath, Ellie climbed the steps and pushed open the heavy door. Inside, the air was cool and carried a faint metallic scent. The vast hall was dimly lit by glowing orbs hanging from the ceiling, and at the far end, she saw it, the great clock. The clock towered above her, a marvel of craftsmanship. Its gears were as large as houses, its pendulum a shining arc of gold and crystal. But something was terribly wrong. The gears were still, the pendulum frozen mid-swing, and the faint hum she had heard outside was barely audible now, as if the clock was on the verge of stopping altogether. "Who dares enter the Hall of Time?" A deep, resonant voice echoed through the chamber. Ellie spun around, her heart pounding. From the shadows emerged a figure. It was a man. No, more than a man. He was tall and slender, with skin that shimmered like polished brass and eyes that glowed softly like the embers of a dying fire. His hair flowed like liquid silver, and his long robes were embroidered with constellations that seemed to shift and twinkle as he moved. I'm Ellie, she stammered, gripping her tool belt tightly. I didn't mean to intrude. I was just following the bird. The figure's glowing eyes flicked to the clockwork bird, which chirped and fluttered to his shoulder. He regarded it with a small smile before turning back to Ellie. You are not here by chance, young one, he said. I am Kronos, keeper of the great clock and guardian of time. And it seems you have arrived at a most critical moment. Ellie's knees felt weak, but she stood her ground. What's happening here? Why is everything stuck? Kronos' expression grew somber. The great clock is broken, he said, gesturing to the towering mechanism behind him. A vital gear has been lost, and without it, time itself has begun to falter. The balance of the world depends on this clock. If it stops completely, all time will freeze. Forever! Ellie's stomach churned. That's awful, she said. But why me? What can I do? Kronos stepped closer, his brass-like face illuminated by the faint glow of the orbs. You are a clockmaker, he said simply. Your hands are skilled, your mind sharp. The clockwork bird chose you for a reason. You have the potential to restore the great clock. Ellie blinked in disbelief. But I'm just an apprentice, she protested. I've never worked on anything like this before. Kronos placed a hand on her shoulder and she felt a warmth that steadied her racing heart. Even the greatest masters were once apprentices, he said. The question is not whether you are ready, but whether you are willing to try. Ellie hesitated, glancing at the massive broken clock. She thought of Master Gearwick's words. A clock is only as steady as the hand that crafts it. Taking a deep breath, she nodded. I'll do it. I'll try. Kronos' glowing eyes brightened and a hint of a smile touched his lips. Good, he said, but this will not be an easy task. The missing gear is no ordinary piece. It is the heart of time, a gear forged from the essence of the first sunrise. It is hidden deep within the lands beyond this city, guarded by challenges designed to test the worth of any who seek it. Ellie swallowed hard. What kind of challenges? Kronos turned and gestured to a massive door at the side of the chamber. The path to the heart of time lies through that door, he said. You will face trials that require ingenuity, courage, and an unyielding spirit. But remember this, you are not alone. The clockwork bird will guide you, and time itself will aid you if you trust in its rhythm. Ellie clenched her fists, determination surging through her. I'm ready, she said, more confidently this time. Kronos nodded and stepped aside, allowing her a clear path to the door. Then go, Ellie the clockmaker, the fate of time rests in your hands. With the clockwork bird perched on her shoulder, Ellie approached the door. It loomed tall and imposing, its surface engraved with intricate patterns of gears and stars. As she reached for the handle, the bird chirped softly as if to reassure her. Taking a deep breath, Ellie pushed the door open and stepped into the unknown. As Ellie stepped through the massive door, a burst of cool air met her, and she found herself standing at the edge of a vast, sprawling landscape. The scene was surreal. A frozen world suspended in time. Gears of all sizes jutted from the ground like strange monuments, their surfaces polished to a mirror shine. Rivers were locked mid-flow, their crystal-clear waters sparkling in the golden light of a perpetual dawn. Trees stood motionless, their branches heavy with glistening dewdrops that hung like tiny prisms. The clockwork bird chirped and took to the air, flying ahead and pausing just long enough for Ellie to follow. "All right, little guide," she murmured, gripping her tool belt for reassurance. "Let's see where this path takes us." Ellie trudged forward, the frozen landscape crunching faintly under her boots. The silence was profound, broken only by the occasional soft hum of distant machinery buried beneath the ground. Her eyes darted around, taking in every detail. The intricate patterns of the frozen rivers, the towering gears that cast long shadows, and the faint, ethereal glow that seemed to emanate from everything around her. Suddenly, the bird swooped down and landed on the edge of a large gear embedded in the ground. As Ellie approached, she noticed an inscription etched into the metal. It read, "Solve the puzzle, and the way will reveal itself." A soft click echoed as the bird pressed its beak against the gear, causing it to shift slightly. Ellie knelt down to examine it more closely. The gear was surrounded by smaller cogs, each one engraved with symbols: a sun, a moon, a star, and a spiral. At the center was a lever that seemed to connect all the pieces. Ellie took a deep breath. "All right, I've seen enough puzzles in the workshop to figure this out," she muttered. She reached out and turned one of the smaller cogs, watching as the symbols aligned with faint clicking sounds. As she worked, she thought back to Master Gearwick's lessons about the harmony of mechanisms. Each piece, he had said, plays a role in creating the whole. After a few minutes of careful adjustments, the symbols aligned and the central gear clicked into place. A low rumble echoed through the ground and the massive gear began to spin. Ellie stumbled back as a section of the frozen river nearby split open, revealing a hidden bridge of glass and gold. The bird chirped triumphantly and flew ahead. Ellie smiled. "First challenge down," she said, following the bird across the shimmering bridge. As she continued her journey, Ellie encountered more puzzles and trials. Each one tested a different skill she had learned as an apprentice. At one point, she found herself in a grove of clockwork trees, their branches twisting into a maze-like structure. She had to carefully navigate through the metallic forest, using her wrench to adjust the gears that blocked her path. The bird flitted above, offering guidance with its soft chirps. Another trial took her to a massive archway made of interlocking gears. A riddle was inscribed on the arch. "I am always running, but never move." "What am I?" Ellie paused, tapping her chin. "Always running, never moving," she repeated. Then her eyes lit up. A clock! She pressed the image of a clock etched into the base of the arch, and the gears began to turn. The arch opened, revealing a new path. After hours of challenges, Ellie reached the edge of a vast crystalline lake. The water shimmered like liquid glass, reflecting the golden light above. At the lake's center stood an island, and on it she could see a tall, ornate tower. "The heart of time must be there," she said to herself. The clockwork bird flew ahead, landing on the edge of a small boat tied to a gear-shaped dock. Ellie climbed into the boat and grasped the oars, but as she pushed off, the lake began to churn. The still waters rippled violently, and the surface darkened. From the depths emerged a massive clockwork serpent. Its scales glinted like polished steel, and its eyes glowed with a fiery red light. Ellie's heart raced. The serpent coiled around the boat, its head looming above her. It hissed, a sound like grinding metal, and its voice echoed in her mind. "Who dares disturb the stillness of the lake?" "I mean no harm," Ellie said, her voice trembling but steady. "I'm here to repair the great clock and restore time." The serpent's glowing eyes narrowed. "Many have tried and failed. You must prove your worth, young one. Face the trial of ingenuity." Before Ellie could respond, the serpent dove into the water, causing waves to crash against the boat. When the water settled, Ellie saw a series of floating platforms rising from the lake's surface, each one adorned with gears and levers. The serpent's voice echoed again. "Align the platforms to create the bridge, but beware, the wrong move will sink them." Ellie clenched her fists, determination surging through her. "I can do this," she whispered. She grabbed her wrench and leapt onto the first platform. Each step required precision and timing. She twisted gears, pulled levers, and watched as the platforms shifted into place. The serpent circled below, its glowing eyes watching her every move. Finally, with a triumphant clang, the last platform locked into place, forming a bridge to the island. The serpent rose from the water, its expression unreadable. "You have done well," it said. "May your journey be swift and your heart steadfast." Ellie nodded in gratitude and hurried across the bridge. The clockwork bird chirped excitedly, urging her forward. Reaching the island, Ellie stood before the tower. It was unlike anything she had seen before. A spiraling structure of gears and crystal, pulsing with faint light. The bird perched on her shoulder and she felt a surge of hope. This was it. The heart of time was within reach. As she stepped inside, a soft glow filled the air. The chamber was vast, with walls that seemed to stretch endlessly upward. At the center of the room was a pedestal, and atop it rested the heart of time, a golden gear that shimmered like the first rays of dawn. Ellie approached cautiously, her hand outstretched. As her fingers brushed the gear, a burst of light filled the room. The clockwork bird chirped loudly, and Ellie felt a surge of warmth and energy. But her relief was short-lived. The ground trembled, and from the shadows emerged a figure cloaked in darkness, its face obscured. A deep, resonant voice filled the chamber. "You have found the heart of time," the figure said. "But do you have the strength to protect it?" Ellie gripped the gear tightly, her resolve unwavering. "I'll do whatever it takes." The figure stepped closer, its form shifting like smoke. "Then prove it," it said, and the room began to change. Gears whirred to life, walls shifted, and Ellie found herself standing at the center of a massive, mechanical labyrinth. The clockwork bird fluttered to her side, chirping urgently. Ellie took a deep breath, clutching the heart of time. "All right," she said. "Let's finish this." Ellie stood at the heart of the labyrinth, the walls of moving gears and pulsing lights shifting around her with a mechanical precision that was both mesmerizing and intimidating. The clockwork bird perched on her shoulder, its soft chirps urging her forward. In her hand, the heart of time glowed faintly, its warmth a constant reminder of her mission. The shadowy figure loomed in the distance, its form flickering like a mirage. "You've come far," it said, its voice resonating with a strange mix of curiosity and challenge. But the true test lies ahead. The great clock must be repaired, and only one with a steadfast heart and keen mind can achieve it. Ellie tightened her grip on the heart of time. "I'll do whatever it takes," she said, her voice steady despite the nervous flutter in her chest. The figure gestured toward a massive door at the end of the labyrinth, its surface engraved with intricate patterns of stars and gears. "Beyond this door lies the great clock. But be warned, it is guarded by the trial of balance. If you succeed, you will restore time. If you fail, you will be trapped here and time will remain frozen." Ellie took a deep breath, her resolve hardening. "I'm ready." As she stepped through the door, the air shifted. The room beyond was vast, with a high, domed ceiling that seemed to stretch into infinity. At the center stood the great clock, a magnificent structure of interlocking gears, spinning pendulums, and shimmering crystals. Its size was overwhelming, and its beauty was breathtaking. But Ellie's heart sank when she noticed the cracks running through its structure. Some gears were missing, others misaligned, and the pendulum swung erratically, emitting a faint, discordant hum. The clockwork bird flew toward the great clock, chirping urgently. Ellie followed, her eyes scanning the intricate mechanisms. She spotted a series of empty slots near the base, spaces where gears had once fit perfectly. It was clear what needed to be done. "You must restore the missing pieces," the shadowy figure said, its voice echoing around the chamber. "The trial of balance will not make it easy. Are you prepared?" Ellie nodded. "I am." Suddenly the ground beneath her feet began to shift. Circular platforms rose from the floor, each one spinning and tilting at precarious angles. Ellie realized that she would need to navigate these unstable platforms to retrieve the missing gears scattered around the chamber. The first platform was close, but it spun rapidly, its edges glowing with a faint blue light. Ellie timed her jump carefully, leaping onto the platform just as it slowed. She wobbled but managed to regain her balance. The clockwork bird fluttered nearby, chirping encouragement. The next platform was farther away and tilted sharply to one side. Ellie crouched, using her weight to stabilize the surface before leaping to the next. She caught the edge, her fingers slipping on the smooth metal, but she pulled herself up with a determined grunt. On this platform she found the first missing gear, a golden piece etched with intricate designs. Carefully she secured the gear in her tool belt and looked for the next. The platforms grew more challenging, some spinning faster, others tilting dangerously. One was surrounded by small darting clockwork creatures that snapped at her hands as she reached for the gear it held. Ellie swatted them away with her wrench, her heart pounding as she claimed the second piece. By the time she reached the final platform, Ellie was drenched in sweat, her arms and legs trembling from the effort. The last platform was the most perilous yet, a narrow disc spinning wildly with no stable foothold. The gear rested at the center, glowing faintly as if to taunt her. "You've come this far," Ellie muttered to herself. "You're not giving up now." She crouched low, timing her movements with the platform's rotations. With a deep breath, she lunged forward, grabbing the gear just as the platform tilted violently. She clung to the edge, her fingers slipping, but the clockwork bird swooped down, grabbing the back of her shirt and giving her just enough lift to scramble back up. "Thanks, buddy," Ellie said, her voice shaky but grateful. With all 3 gears in hand, Ellie returned to the base of the great clock. The shadowy figure reappeared, watching her with an expression she couldn't decipher. "You have the pieces," it said. "But the final challenge remains." Ellie knelt before the great clock, examining the empty slots. Each slot was engraved with symbols, patterns of stars, spirals, and waves. The gears she had retrieved bore matching designs, but their placement wasn't immediately obvious. Ellie realized she would need to align them perfectly to restore the clock's harmony. Her hands trembled as she fitted the first gear into its slot. It clicked into place, and a soft hum resonated through the chamber. Encouraged, Ellie turned her attention to the second gear, carefully aligning its symbols before securing it. The hum grew louder, the pendulum swinging more smoothly. When she placed the final gear, a burst of golden light filled the room. The great clock whirred to life, its gears spinning in perfect harmony. The pendulum swung with rhythmic precision, and the discordant hum was replaced by a soothing melody. The shadowy figure stepped forward, its form shifting in the light. As it approached, the shadows peeled away, revealing an elderly man with kind eyes and a long beard streaked with silver. "You have done well, Ellie," he said, his voice no longer menacing but warm and gentle. "The great clock is whole again thanks to your ingenuity and determination." Ellie stared at him in astonishment. "Who are you?" "I am the keeper of time," he said, bowing slightly. "It is my duty to protect the balance of this realm. When time was disrupted, I feared it might never be restored. But you, Ellie, have proven that even the smallest hands can make a great impact." The clockwork bird chirped happily, and Ellie felt a swell of pride. "Thank you," she said. "But I couldn't have done it without help." The keeper nodded. "True strength lies not only in skill, but in acknowledging the value of teamwork and perseverance. You have demonstrated both." As the great clock continued its harmonious rhythm, the frozen landscape outside began to thaw. Rivers flowed once more, trees swayed in the breeze, and the golden light of dawn brightened into a warm, vibrant day. Ellie stepped outside, marveling at the transformation. The clockwork bird fluttered beside her, chirping a joyful tune. The keeper of time appeared beside her, a faint smile on his face. "Your journey is complete, but your story has only just begun. Remember the lessons you've learned here, Ellie, for they will serve you well in the days to come." Ellie nodded, her heart filled with a sense of accomplishment and wonder. As the keeper raised his hand in farewell, the clockwork bird landed on her shoulder, nuzzling her cheek. Ellie smiled. "Let's go home," she said. Together they walked toward the horizon, the rhythmic chime of the great clock echoing behind them, a reminder of the balance they had restored and the adventures yet to come. Ellie's boots crunched softly against the cobblestone path as she made her way back to the clockmaker's shop, the clockwork bird perched faithfully on her shoulder. The golden light of dawn filtered through the trees, bathing the town in a warm glow. She glanced over her shoulder one last time, catching a glimpse of the great clock's tower in the distance. Its rhythmic chime now rang out with a steady, soothing beat that echoed across the landscape, a sound of harmony restored. The clockwork bird chirped, its tiny gears clicking in a cheerful tune. Ellie reached up to gently stroke its metallic feathers. "We did it," she said softly, a small smile spreading across her face. "We really did it." As she approached the shop, Ellie felt a mix of emotions swirling inside her. There was pride in what she had accomplished, but also a sense of nervousness. How would her mentor, Master Calder, react to everything that had happened? She had left in such a hurry, driven by a desperate need to set things right. Would he understand? Pushing the door open, Ellie stepped inside. The familiar scent of sawdust and oil greeted her, along with the steady ticking of clocks lining the walls. Master Calder was hunched over his workbench, his magnifying lenses perched on his nose as he examined the tiny gears of a pocket watch. "Ellie?" he said, looking up. His bushy eyebrows shot upward in surprise as he noticed the clockwork bird on her shoulder. "You're back!" He set the pocket watch down and stood, his expression a mix of relief and curiosity. "And what is that?" Ellie hesitated for a moment, then stepped forward. "It's a long story," she said, her voice trembling slightly. She removed the Heart of Time from her pocket and placed it on the workbench, the gemstone still faintly glowing. "But I need to tell you everything." Ellie recounted her journey, sparing no detail. She described how the Heart of Time had activated the clockwork bird, how it had guided her to the hidden land where time was frozen, and how she had faced the trial of balance to repair the great clock. Master Calder listened intently, his eyes wide with wonder and admiration. When she finished, there was a long moment of silence. Master Calder reached out to pick up the Heart of Time, turning it over in his hands. "This is extraordinary," he said, finally, his voice filled with awe. "You've done something remarkable, Ellie. Something I don't think anyone else could have done." Ellie felt a warm flush of pride, but she shook her head. "I didn't do it alone," she said. "The clockwork bird helped me, and the Keeper of Time. He believed in me, even when I wasn't sure I could do it." Master Calder smiled, his eyes crinkling at the corners. "That's what makes you special, Ellie. You understand that true strength comes from collaboration and perseverance, and you've proven that you're not just an apprentice anymore. You're a clockmaker in your own right." The clockwork bird chirped happily, flapping its wings, as if to agree. Master Calder chuckled and reached out to examine the bird more closely. "This little one is a marvel," he said, "a living piece of art just like you." Ellie grinned, her earlier nervousness melting away. She felt a new sense of confidence, a belief in her abilities that hadn't been there before. She had faced incredible challenges, but she had come through stronger, wiser, and more determined than ever. Later that day, Ellie found herself walking through the town square, the Heart of Time safely tucked away in her pocket. The townsfolk were bustling about, their movements filled with energy and purpose. The frozen stillness that had gripped the town before was gone, replaced by a vibrant hum of activity. As she passed by the great clock's tower, Ellie paused. She tilted her head back, watching the pendulum swing with a steady rhythm. The hands of the clock moved gracefully, marking the passage of time with a precision that filled her with satisfaction. A small group of children gathered nearby, their eyes wide as they stared up at the tower. One of them turned to Ellie, his face lit with curiosity. "Miss Ellie," he said, tugging on her sleeve. "Did you really fix the great clock?" Ellie knelt down, meeting the boy's gaze. "I did," she said with a smile. "But it wasn't just me. I had help from some very special friends." The children's faces lit up with excitement, and they peppered her with questions. "What was it like? Were you scared? Is it true you met the Keeper of Time?" Ellie laughed, answering their questions as best she could. She told them about the clockwork bird, the magical observatory, and the shimmering constellations. She spoke of Pegasus, Lyra, and the trials she had faced. The children hung on her every word, their imaginations ignited by the tale. As the sun dipped lower in the sky, Ellie returned to the clockmaker's shop. She found Master Calder sitting by the fireplace, a cup of tea in his hand. He gestured for her to join him, and she sank into the chair across from him. "You know," Master Calder said, his tone thoughtful. "I've been a clockmaker for many years, but I've never experienced anything like what you've described. It's a reminder that there's always more to learn, always more to discover." Ellie nodded, her gaze fixed on the flickering flames. "I used to think time was just something we measured with clocks," she said, "but now I understand it's so much more than that. It's something we share, something we use to create, to connect, to live." Master Calder smiled, his expression filled with pride. "You've grown, Ellie, not just as a clockmaker but as a person, and I couldn't be prouder." That night, as Ellie lay in her bed, she gazed out the window at the stars. The clockwork bird perched on her nightstand, its eyes glowing faintly in the darkness. She reached out to gently touch its wing, a sense of peace washing over her. "Good night, little one," she whispered. The bird chirped softly in response, its gears clicking in a rhythm that matched the steady beat of the great clock. As Ellie closed her eyes, she felt a deep sense of fulfillment. She had faced incredible challenges and discovered the true meaning of time and responsibility. And though her adventure had come to an end, she knew it was only the beginning of her journey as a clockmaker and as a guardian of time. In her dreams, Ellie soared through the stars once more, her heart light and her spirit free. The great clock's chime echoed in her ears, a gentle reminder of the balance she had restored and the endless possibilities that lay ahead. "Hello, little one. You've journeyed far and wide today through the enchanting story of Ellie and her remarkable adventure as the clockmaker's apprentice. Now it's time to close your eyes and let yourself relax." As Ellie discovered the magic of balance and the power of time, you too will find peace and comfort in this moment. Let's begin our journey to restful sleep together. Take a deep breath in through your nose and gently breathe out through your mouth. Feel your body soften as you exhale. Let's do that again. Breathe in and out. With each breath, imagine the tension of the day melting away, like snowflakes melting in the warmth of the sun. Picture yourself in the clockmaker's workshop, a place of wonder and calm. The steady ticking of clocks fills the air, a gentle and reassuring sound. The room glows softly, lit by the golden light of the oil lamps. Can you hear the faint whirring of gears? Each tick-tock is like a heartbeat, steady and soothing, reminding you that everything is as it should be. You sit down in a cozy chair near the workbench. The chair is soft and warm, as if it's been waiting for you all along. On the workbench, you see a small, clockwork bird, its golden feathers shimmering under the light. It tilts its head, its tiny gears clicking as it chirps a soft, melodic tune just for you. As you sit there, you feel yourself grow lighter, as if the worries of the day are lifting away. Imagine a gentle wind entering the room, carrying away anything that has been weighing you down. Feel the breeze swirl around you, soft and cool, sweeping away your concerns and leaving behind only peace and stillness. Now let's think about the wonderful qualities inside you. Just like Ellie, you have strength, courage, and curiosity. You have the power to learn and grow, to face challenges and find solutions. Repeat these affirmations to yourself, either in your mind or softly out loud. I am strong and capable. I am curious and full of wonder. I can face anything with courage and kindness. I am loved and safe. I am at peace. Each affirmation is like a key, unlocking a little more of the calm and confidence inside you. The clockwork bird chirps again, and you feel a gentle pull, like an invitation to explore. Close your eyes and imagine a door opening in the workshop. Beyond it lies a magical forest bathed in starlight. The trees are tall and whispering, their branches sparkling with tiny lights like the stars themselves. Step into the forest, feeling the soft moss under your feet. It's cool and springy, like a natural carpet. A path lined with glowing mushrooms guides you deeper into the woods. As you walk, you notice the rhythmic ticking of the great clock far in the distance. Each tick brings you closer to peace. Each tock helps you relax even more. Now, the forest begins to open up, and you find yourself in a clearing. In the center stands the great clock, towering and magnificent. Its golden hands move gracefully, perfectly in sync with the rhythm of time. Around the clock, the air shimmers with tiny sparkles, like a million fireflies dancing in harmony. Take a moment to sit down by the great clock, lean back against its sturdy base, and let its presence reassure you. The clock is steady and timeless, just like the calmness you're feeling now. Close your eyes and imagine that each tick of the clock is a wave of relaxation flowing through you. Tick, your shoulders soften. Tock, your arms grow heavy. Tick, your legs loosen and relax. Tock, your mind becomes calm and quiet. As you sit there, the clockwork bird lands gently on your shoulder. It whispers to you in a voice only you can hear. You are exactly where you need to be. You are safe. You are loved. The bird takes off again, soaring high into the starlit sky. You watch as it joins a constellation shaped like a bird, its golden light blending with the stars. The constellations above seem to dance, forming shapes of animals, ships, and magical creatures. They remind you of all the stories you've heard, of adventures waiting for you in your dreams. The gentle hum of the forest wraps around you like a soft blanket. The wind carries the scent of blooming flowers and fresh rain, and you feel completely at ease. The great clock continues its steady ticking, a lullaby guiding you toward sleep. Let's take a few more deep breaths together. Breathe in through your nose and out through your mouth. With each breath, feel your body grow heavier, sinking into the cozy warmth of your bed. As you breathe, imagine yourself floating on a soft, fluffy cloud. The cloud is light and warm, carrying you high above the forest. You look down and see the world stretching out below, peaceful and still. The cloud carries you gently, cradling you as you drift through the night sky. In your dreams, you can visit the places Ellie explored. Perhaps you'll meet the Keeper of Time, or glide alongside Pegasus in the shimmering sky. You might strum Lyra's harp of starlight, or dance with the starry creatures in the observatory. Wherever your dreams take you, know that you are safe, protected, and surrounded by magic. Let's finish with a few more affirmations, as soft as whispers. I am calm and at peace. I am loved and cherished. I am ready for a restful sleep. My dreams will be gentle and happy. I am exactly where I need to be. Now let yourself drift completely. Feel how light you are, how weightless. Imagine the clockwork bird's song growing softer, like a distant melody guiding you deeper into sleep. The ticking of the great clock becomes quieter, a faint rhythm in the background, steady and reassuring. You are floating now, weightless and free, carried by the soft breeze of the night. The stars above twinkle like friends watching over you, their light gentle and kind. The clouds wrap around you like a cozy blanket, holding you in their soft embrace. Sleep well, little one. Let the magic of the clockmaker's adventure stay with you, guiding you to dreams filled with wonder and joy. The great clock will keep ticking, steady and true, as you rest peacefully through the night. Good night, Twilight.